Okay. Chapter 6. Now, at the beginning of every chapter, you stop and say what's happening. Chapter 5 was at Mama's funeral and how Charlie had come home and how he was different and how he blamed Lafayette for Mom's death. And Aunt Cecile was there. She wanted to take them home. Friends and family brought a lot of food by, kind of the way funerals run. So as we read, we're going to ask ourselves, what kind of person is Tyree? And I want us to stop because today, this week's discussion board question is about Tyree. And because we know that this week's discussion board question is about Tyree and why people call him Saint Tyree, I'm going to read this chapter with that in mind, and I'm going to be looking to collect evidence to support why people call him Saint Tyree. So, chapter 6. That night, the night of the day we buried Mama, Aunt Cecile sat down in Mama's chair at the table and told me and Tyree about her plan to move us back home with her. We're already at home, I remember saying. Aunt Cecile smiled her perfect teeth smile and shook her head. You're just two boys, she said, and Charlie won't be home for at least another 2 years. When he gets out, he can come on down south, too. You want to go live down south, Lafayette? Tyree called to me. I shook my head. Tyree raised his hands and gave Aunt Cecile his Saint Tyree smile. Guess we'll be staying here then. He and Aunt Cecile went back and forth for a long time. Aunt Cecile saying Tyree was too young to try and raise me, and Tyree telling her of his plans to work full time now that he graduated high school. If you were Tyree or Lafayette, would you go to live with Aunt Cecile? I would say I'm unsure. It depends on a lot of things, but I already know from reading the book that if Tyree just graduated from high school, that if I didn't go live with Aunt Cecile and Tyree had to raise me, he'd probably have to put a lot of his life on hold, and I'm not sure I would want that. While they talked, I felt Mama sit down beside me, and I laid my head against her shoulder. Now, can he really lay his head against Mama's shoulder? She's passed away. It was warm and soft and smelled like the honeysuckle oil she liked to put on her hair. But when I looked a few minutes later, it was just an orange pillow underneath my face. The pillow Mama had sewn back up after I picked a hole in it. After a while, Aunt Cecile went into the kitchen and asked if me and Tyree wanted something to eat. We both said yes, and she fixed us each a big plate of food. I ate mine in front of the television, halfway listening to Tyree and Aunt Cecile talk about how me and Tyree would and wouldn't get by living on our own. Tyree had been accepted to MIT. MIT, the Massachusetts Institution of Technology. It's a private research university in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's very prestigious. So prestigious means like important and impressive. So Tyree, we're going to stick ourselves a little thinking chart in here, one of my favorite things to do. If I can find where to put it, insert, table. Tyree accepted into MIT. This tells us that he is very smart. Not just anybody can get in there. This is a big opportunity. I knew that was good because people made all kinds of fusses about the school and about Tyree at his graduation. Every time we turned around, he was going up on stage to get another award. He was good in science and stuff, and sometimes he'd take me to the park with him, and I'd get to watch him and his friends launch rockets they'd built. For a long time, he'd talked about wanting to work with NASA. After Mama died, he changed his mind about everything, even stopped going to the park to launch rockets with his friends. Most of the guys he hung with went away to college. Tyree had gone to a special high school for smart kids. He was the only guy in our neighborhood to get in. Before Mama died, some guys used to make fun of him and call him Professor. But later on, once he started working full-time and taking care of me, people started showing respect, saying, "What's up, Ty?" when he came home in the evening, slapping him 5 and asking after me and new Charlie. Tyree said he didn't really care about not going to college, that keeping his little bit of family together was the most important thing. But once in a while he'd go and visit some of his old homeboys who were home for Thanksgiving break or Christmas vacation. When he came home those nights, he didn't have much to say, just sat at the dining room table slowly going through the pages of his high school yearbook looking lost, looking like he'd left something big behind him. He didn't go to MIT because for Tyree, family first meant being there. For some of us, going to school and getting that 4-year degree, you could have argued that that would have put him in a better place to support his family because he would have gotten a better job. But everybody in that situation has their own feelings, and neither choice is better or worse than the other. He did what was right for him and his family. If he had gone to MIT and got an advanced degree and a better job, that would have been just fine. Okay, Tyree is rude, mean, selfish, or smart. Think about the evidence. I'm just picking the first one. Aunt Cecile stayed with us for 2 weeks. By the time she left, all Mama's stuff was gone, and Mama's room had become Tyree's. "At least you won't have to fuss about me sleeping on the couch during your Saturday morning cartoons," Tyree said when he caught me standing in Mama's room looking around for her things. "I liked you better on the couch," I said. "I liked it better when Mama was sleeping in here. Where's her stuff?" "Took it down to Goodwill this morning." I opened the closet door. Tyree's basketball sneakers were on the floor where Mama's green sandals used to be. His shirts were hanging where Mama's dresses used to hang. Her black winter coat and yellow wool scarf were gone. I sniffed the closet. It still smelled like her. "If I had a bad dream, Mama'd let me come sleep with her." "You can come sleep with me now if you have a bad dream," Tyree said. "It ain't the same, T." All right. Tyree took Mama's room, and Tyree offered his brother to sleep with him when he had bad dreams. Okay, him taking his mama's room is very symbolic of him taking Mom's place. In the family. And him saying that Tyree can sleep with him, or Lafayette can sleep with him when he has nightmares, tells us he's taking on, he's kind and caring and comforting. Do you remember the time I closed the closet door and looked at Tyree, waiting for him to finish. But he just shook his head. The whole room still smelled like Mama, like coffee and perfume, and it smelled like the way she laughed, tinkly. It smelled like the memories of her, like how she used to try and hold my hand when we crossed the street, even when I was 9. She was still trying to hold my hand, and I'd snatch it away from her and frown. Then she'd laugh and pull me to her. Sometimes I let her do that, walk across the street with her arm around my shoulder, while men whistled at her and asked her if I was her boyfriend. She was real pretty, my mama was, and some Friday nights she'd put on music and me and her would dance and dance. Me and Tyree hadn't cried yet. At the funeral, we'd sat up front and let everyone give us hugs and pats on the backs and sorry looks without even flinching. But that day, after we'd put Aunt Cecile on a bus heading back down south, we stood in Mama's room. That was now Tyree's, watching the sun come in through the window. Tyree had left up the flower curtains Mama had bought downtown, and for some reason this was sadder than anything to me. It seemed wrong, a big blue plaid boy comforter on the bed and Mama's lady curtains at the window. I went over and rubbed the curtains against my face. "This is all, huh, T?" I whispered. "This is all we got left of Mama." Tyree shook his head. "Nah, Lafayette," he said, "that ain't all." I didn't know what he meant, but I couldn't ask. My throat was starting to fill up with all the days Mama had been dead and me not crying. All the tears were jamming themselves together and pushing their way out. Tyree came over to me and looked at my face for a minute. Then, without saying anything else, he pulled me to him, and we stood there crying until the sun was gone. Okay. The question number 3 says, what do you think Tyree means when he says, "that ain't all"? You always have to restate your question. Tyree says that ain't all. He means, then you have to type your answer. What do you think he means that isn't all? It's not just all the curtains. What do you think they have left? That's the end of that chapter.